Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Slay, and I'm just trying to make sure I'm recording here. Let's see. It says, yeah, I should be recording. And so I am here to talk about week 12 in reading 370. Today's focus is going to be on the mini lesson. Okay, writing is filled with mini lessons. Reading instruction is also filled with mini lessons. So these are short snippets of instruction that usually focus on a skill or a strategy that you want your students to use in their reading and writing. This one is going to focus on descriptive writing. That is going to be on the lesson that we call Show, Don't Tell. So it's a mini lesson that is going to focus on a piece of narrative writing that you will create. There's two discussion posts that you're going to use to create this activity. So you should see them both here on this screen. So you see it says personal narrative. I'm going to ask you to free write for about 10 to 15 minutes to retell a time from an important moment or a memory of a routine you have had with a loved one. You're going to post your writing on this discussion board by Tuesday. Okay, that's next Tuesday, so it gives you a few days to do this. This does not have to be a polished piece of writing, but you'll be revising the writing throughout the rest of the week. You are posting it to the small group discussion board so that you can read each other's writing and offer each other feedback throughout the process. This is a way for you all to support each other. Although I realize you're all doing this in different ways. I'm not requiring it, but I know that some people really do enjoy having someone else to offer them feedback and to talk to about their writing, which is what small group writing conferences are all about. So in a face-to-face class, we would be doing this together in class. We would be at small tables. I would be sitting next to you, but in an online class, it's a little bit more challenging to manage that process. When everybody's doing something very different in their schedules. So this is the best way that we can try to emulate that process. So number two, after you do your personal writing, then what I'm going to ask you to do is to focus on the Saturdays and Tea Cakes Show, Don't Tell mini lesson, which has to do with writing revision. So I'm going to actually model some of the steps that go with that. So this mini lesson is designed to help you with your elaboration skills in your writing. Okay. One of the other things that I want you to recognize is that all good writing instruction focuses on mentor text. I think we believe this has come out in the textbook right here. So we know that drawing from authentic pieces of literature, authentic pieces of writing is where we can help students to recognize that our writing matters, and that it comes from a real place and not something that's just fabricated for a test or just for the teacher, for example. So this is a book that I've used often. It's actually written by a professor who also writes children's books. His name is Lester Lamanick. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to show you all of this well, so I may be moving the book back and forth as I try to read the text and get you to do certain things. The certain things that you're going to do is that while you hear me read the book aloud, I want you to get a piece of paper, and I want you to jot down what you notice about how the author is using descriptive language to help the reader see, hear, and feel while listening to the story. Okay. You're going to create a table like this one. Okay. I'm going to change the tabs and you should now be looking. Let me double check, make sure I haven't made any mistakes. Yep. You are looking at the right thing. You should see you're going to create a table for yourself that has these four areas: see, hear, and feel, and then the words how. And you're going to list opportunities in the story where you can see something. What does the author say when you can hear something? And what does the author say when you feel something? And how did the author do that? What kind of language or what kind of tools or descriptive devices did the author use in that particular moment? Okay. so we're going to practice and we're going to do a few of these together. The strategy that I'm using with you right now is called creating an anchor chart and doing a think aloud through this shared reading experience where we read the story together, but I'm leading you through the process of creating an anchor chart. Please note, anchor charts, you see them in classrooms, teachers use them all the time. It's an old tool. It's an important tool, but often teachers make their, what I notice, and it's an old habit that has been around for a long time. It's not a good habit though. Teachers make their anchor charts beforehand, and then they deliver them to the students. A better way to do that is to make an anchor chart with your students so that they can see you thinking aloud and going through the authentic process of making meaning out of the text and transferring that meaning making to something that they're going to actually use in their own writing. So this is why this is going to be a shared reading experience where we are sharing this work of making this anchor chart. I'm going to start it to model, but what I'm going to ask you to do, because this is a mini lesson that I want you to follow up on, we wouldn't be doing this digitally if you had class students in the classroom. So we're modifying this a bit. But what I'm going to start the process and we'll show so that you can see how this is going to be done. And then you're going to carry it through. So let me get started reading the book. It's called Saturdays and Tea Cake. So forgive me, I don't mean to make you dizzy, but I'm going to read and move it back and forth. I do want you to see the, I honestly, I really do want you to see the pictures because they're really cool. So listen carefully. Saturdays and Tea Cakes. Can you see? You can sort of see. Let me see if I can adjust the camera just a tad. Here we go. That might be a little bit better, although it's not really close. I really am sorry about that. Saturdays and Tea Cakes. Notice the setting. We have a little boy on his bike. He's got a striped t-shirt, a little puppy dog following behind, and a bicycle with a basket in front. Not a bicycle you would probably see in use today. So pay attention to the setting, when and where this story might take place. So here he is. Here's here's a better view of him, a close-up of him. And he looks pretty happy with his and look at the setting and that you've got a little dirt road. That is something that where we're reading the images, so it gives you a little bit of context. We don't see these striped shirts too much anymore, so that kind of tells you a little bit about the setting. And it starts this way. When I was 9, I think I have glasses, forgive me, it's very close to my eyes. When I was 9 or 10 years old, I couldn't wait for Saturdays. Every Saturday I got up early, dressed, and rolled my bicycle out of the garage. What did he just say? He rolled his bicycle out of the garage. I think can I see it? Can I hear it or can I feel it? I'm not sure I'm seeing or hearing, although that sense of rolling is a very strong word. Oh, and by the way, I think I forgot to tell you that I want you to listen for examples of something called onomatopoeia. You're going to need that in your writing, and I'll show you examples when we get to it. Okay, so here he goes rolling down the road. Every Saturday, I coasted down our long, steep drive, slowing only enough to make the turn onto Thompson Street. I'm checking to see if you can see this. Okay. Then left on Bell's Mill Road. Pedal, 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 past Miss Crowfield's house. Pedal, 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 around the horse pasture and up the hill past the cemetery where my grandfather was buried. Pedal, 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 past Mrs. Grace Owen's house, up on Chandler Phillips 66. Notice that sense of direction going past. They're using, actually, what I'm going to put right here, I can see this. So I'm going to say that the author is using prepositions. Sorry, I'm typing with one finger. Prepositions, that's a tool. That's a tool for the descriptive language. Let me make that a little bit smaller. And we don't need to bold that, take some space, and I think that's going to be the problem for the whole table. So I'm going to fix that. and make the whole table, what, 12-inch, maybe let's make it 10-inch font. No, 12-inch font would be good. Okay, there we go. And so what did he say? He said, I coasted down our long driveway slowly, only enough to make a turn onto, and then left onto pedal past Miss Cofield's house and around the horse pasture. Things like what you can see is past. I've got to put that down. I type better with two hands, forgive me. So we're going to say, but I could have prepared it for you, but then that would defy the purpose. The idea is that we do this together. I wish I had an easel in my office, but I do not. So it's going to be past the cemetery where my grandfather was buried. Oh, we've got two prepositions going past the cemetery. That is one. I would bold that. And then where my grandfather was buried, where is not a preposition. So then we have another one. Every Saturday I coasted down our long driveway slowly, only enough to make the turn on. It would be onto Thompson Street. So, and then it goes on. So onto Thompson Street is a prepositional phrase. So I'm going to actually call that a prepositional phrase. So you can see that we are using examples and we're describing them to see what it is, how the author is being descriptive. They are naming a place, which is part of the art of writing prepositional phrases. Oh, didn't do that quite right. So let me try that again. And type it, it'll be faster. There we go. Okay, so, and you hear the repetition. The author is using a sense of repetition because you can hear this sense of pedal, pedal, pedal. So that is, oh, I'm not spelling very well. There we go, repetition. So when I do these, I'm actually using a tab key to make more boxes. I don't know if you knew that tool in Google Docs. All right, so here you can see the writer going down the lane past all of these places. There's the cemetery describing what is going on in this particular book. Every Saturday, I coasted over the black hose by the gas pumps just to make the bell ring. Then I dropped my kickstand and checked the air in my tires. I stopped at Chandler's for another reason too. That's where I crossed the highway that ran right through the center of our town. My mother always said, you stop and you look both ways when you get to Chandler's. I don't care if the light is green. I'll hear about it if you don't. Now, there's a clue right there. Small town, right? I'll hear about it if you don't. And you can see it's a small town. Look at the Phillips 66. I haven't seen that since I was a kid. So that makes you, dates back for a little bit. Once upon a time, somebody actually came out and filled my car up with gas. All I had to do is drive up and an attendant would come out and fill my car with gas. You can look at the clothing. So I'm guessing this is kind of set in maybe the 50s, maybe, or maybe even the early 60s. I don't care if the light is green. I'll hear about it if you don't. And I knew she would too. In our little town, everyone knew everybody and told everything to everyone who would listen. So I always looked both ways. Pedal, pedal, pedal. There's that repetition again. I pedal, pedal, pedal across the street, left for a slow coast down behind the bank of Heflin. There's that specific naming of a place where I turned right onto Bedwell and whoosh, I zoomed downhill as fast as I could. As fast as I dared. As a teacher, I'm always preparing my books, by the way, with notes that I want to share with my students. That's what I'm moving out of the way so that I can actually see the text. But that's what I hope you will do when you are sharing your books with your students. You're preparing and reading them in advance so you know what it is that they need to, that you want to be able to share with them. That's part of being prepared when you're devising your lesson plans. So one more small hill, pedal, 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 and then right onto Gaither Street. Now I could see my grandmother's house. So there's this particular thing that this author has done. Actually, there were two things. One was back here. I want to point out to you that that description was done through it's something you can feel. You can feel that mother's warning in her dialogue. So the author is using dialogue as a device or a tool to help us understand the intent and purpose. Now, actually, if you look at the picture, she seems to be her mother, but not his mother. So it's just that dialogue that says, look, we are a small community and everybody sees everything. So we kind of get a sense and a feel for what it's like to live in this particular town. But here's an example of onomatopoeia. It's that whoosh right here. Notice it's also written in italics. And this is something that I really would show my students. Whoosh in italics with an exclamation point, because he zoomed down the hill and it's meant to show how fast he was going, or at least to give us a sense of the feeling of speed. So here I would say it's something that I can hear. But you know something? I can also feel the sense of speed. So I'm going to use the author's words right here to show that, because what you're posting here are the author's words. And what is it? That's this word up here. Oh no, motto, Poeia. I always get it wrong, so I have to say it aloud to myself. And there he's taking a little break with his dog. So I'm going to continue reading the story, and I am going to actually let you find, you can see where my tabs are, where I had some particular notes, but now it's up to you. I want you to enjoy the rest of the story. I am going to stop giving out all of the answers at this point because I think I have modeled what you are to do. You're going to put the text here on the left, the text of the author's words and where they fall, excuse me, I was reading the word feel. They are examples of things you can see, hear, or feel. And then how does the author do it? What does the author do? If you don't have the correct term, describe what it is that you are noticing. So now enjoy the story and start jotting away on your own particular charts. 1, 2, 3, 4 driveways and one last turn to the left. This was where my tires gave up their humming on pavement and began the crunching of gravel. Just before reaching Mama's back porch, I slammed on my brakes, sending a shower of tiny pebbles onto her flowers. Every Saturday, Mama was there, sitting on her old metal glider. Great, crack, great, crack, sipping a cup of red diamond coffee and waiting. It was just coffee, it was red diamond coffee. She was waiting for me, no one else, just me. There she is. Great crack. Hint, hint. Great crack. I love these pictures. I used to have one of those Crocs. Every Saturday, Mama called out, "Come on into this house. Let's have a bite to eat. Let's have us a bite to eat." That's a little different, right? In Mama's big kitchen, sunlight poured through the windows like a waterfall and spilled over the countertops, pooling up on the checkerboard floor. Every Saturday, she had hot biscuits, sweet butter, and golden eagle syrup waiting on the kitchen table. Every Saturday, she poured a little coffee in my cup and filled the rest with milk and 2 spoonfuls of sugar. Then, before Mama said, "We best clear these dishes away and get all that yard before it gets too hot," I followed her out to the back porch. "Let me put a little water on these ferns," she said. "You go on ahead to the car house." When's the last time you heard the term car house? That's what Mama called a garage. I'll be out directly. Hint, I don't do a very good Southern accent, but this author grew up in Alabama. By the time I pulled the old lawn mower from the garage, Mama was already in the garden picking plump, ripe tomatoes for our lunch. There she is. Every Saturday I pulled the starter rope again and again while the mower sputtered and spit. Finally, that old mower started and I struggled to push it through the dew-wet grass, leaving row after row of fresh stripes on the lawn. From time to time, the mower choked on mouthful of wet grass that clung to the blades and to my bare legs. But by early afternoon, the dew pearls were gone, and the grass was mowed and dry, and I was soaked with sweat. Every Saturday, I'd push the mower back into the garage, trudged to the back porch, and flopped out onto that old glider. Crack, 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 crack. We don't see too many of these push mowers anymore, do we? I believe one of my neighbors has one, but we have small yards where I live. Well, Mama was soon appeared with a tall glass of sweet iced tea. You just cool off and rest a spell. I'm going to make us a bite to eat. Before long, she came back with 2 big tomato sandwiches on hamburger buns. Every Saturday, I gobbled mine down like a hungry dog, but she nibbled at hers like a bird. Now, them's some good tomatoes, she said. I know you like a good tomato sandwich. Don't they waste a whole heap better? Don't they taste a whole heap better when you're just picked them? Well, we sat there a while listening to the calls of blue jays and the rhythm of that old glider. Then Mama looked at me and sort of sideways and said, I reckon I know a boy who'd like something sweet to eat. And I grinned. Yes, ma'am, I reckon I do. I think he knows what's coming. And there they are together in the kitchen. Come on then, Mama said, heading towards the door. Let's get in this kitchen and see if we can't make us a mess. Every Saturday she spread a cloth over the red countertop and scattered a fistful of flour across it, sending a cloud into the air. Then she set out a big bowl. Look at that floor, checkerboard floor. I haven't seen that in a while. I remember those tin cabinets in my grandparents' house. Mama dipped in a china teacup into the canister of flour. When would you use your china teacup instead of a measuring cup, right? Mama dipped a china teacup into the canister of flour, scooped out a cupful, and skimmed over the top with her finger. Then she dumped the flour into the bowl and added sugar from her black cookie jar. She let the mixture drift through her hands like I sifted sand at the beach. Notice the use of color words. I wonder where that might go on your chart. When it felt right, Mama said, look at the Frigidaire. That's what she called her refrigerator. And find me 2 sticks of blue bonnet. I think we still have blue bonnet around. I pulled open the refrigerator and got out the margarine. I unwrapped the sticks and dropped them into the bowl. I mixed and mashed and mixed and mashed until the ingredients disappeared into a paste. It was smooth and pale yellow and smelled like fresh cotton candy at the county fair. I see a simile. Plot that on your chart. I see a simile. Smelled like fresh cotton candy at the county fair. Well, Mama pinched off a little to taste. I expect we need a little bit more sugar in this. She sprinkled sugar until the dough tasted just the way she thought it ought to. Now get me 3 eggs, she said. I tapped the first egg too hard, making it splatter onto the counter and down the sides outside of the bowl. I reckon we can call that half an egg, Mama said. Here, let me show you how to do it. Just tap them easy like and pull the shell apart over the bowl like this. Now, you do the next one. Did you see? I can see kids cutting eggs or breaking open eggs for cooking just like that. It was hard work in blending those eggs into the mix with a long wooden spoon. Mama pinched another taste. My goodness, buddy, we didn't put no vanilla in here. Reach up in that cabinet and get me down the bottle of vanilla flavor. When the dough tasted just right, Mama rolled it out on the flour dusted cloth. Then I cut out the tea cakes with the rim of an old tin can. We carefully lifted the circles onto a cookie jar and put them in the oven to bake. 375 degrees for 15 minutes. Those 15 minutes seemed to last forever. Are they ready, Mama? Not yet, buddy. Are they ready, Mama? Not yet, buddy. Let's give them a bit longer. Are they ready yet, Mama? I reckon they might be. There's some more repetition. Shows you that sense of anticipation. She opened the oven door and the kitchen filled with a smell sweeter than the summer gardenias, the flower and smell of tea cakes. I hear another simile. Or maybe it's a metaphor. What are they comparing? Think about the difference between a simile and a metaphor. Those are devices used for description. Every Saturday, I reach for one still steaming on the baking sheet. You better wait, buddy. They gotta be mighty hot just yet. So let me make a note here. There are examples, and I'm not going to put them in the chart because I'm going to let you do that work. But we have things like similes. We have metaphors. Those are other tools for descriptive language. Let me put it up here with this list of tools up here. Oh, my copy tool's not working. Similes and metaphors. Those are other tools that they're using. They're using details like strong verbs. Other things that we naming using proper nouns. Let's spell that right, Dr. Slay here. Proper nouns, which are specific places, names of people, places, brand names. Those are all the tools that we're seeing in this book so far. Oh, so many good things that are being used to create descriptive language and to elaborate more specifically. We waited until the tea cakes were cool enough to lift from the baking sheet. Then we set them off on a plate. Every Saturday I ate one and then another, and I looked at Mama. Is that all you want, buddy? You be sure to eat all you want. We made them tea cakes just for you. When I had eaten all I could, I set a few off on a saucer for herself and put the rest on a big sheet of aluminum foil. She folded the edges into a little handle at the top. Now you put those out there in your bicycle basket so you won't forget them. Every Saturday as I pedaled over the gravel again and out Mama's drive, I glanced back over my shoulder. Every Saturday, Mama was there sitting on her old metal lighter and waving. She was waving to me, no one else. Just me. Oh, Mama, I won't ever forget. And I bet he didn't because he wrote a book about it. That was probably Lester Laminath when he was a little boy, writing about one specific memory. It's a moment in time, and that's what I want you to remember. I want you to think about a moment in time that you can write about, that you can describe. Now, your first one is just that first prompt that I asked you to do. It's just a prompt for you to write freely about that moment in time. I'm going to give you a little bit of a warning. I know because I've done this many, many times and I do it myself. When we start writing, we write about everything in the kitchen sink. We put everything in our writing and it's too much. When I talk about everything, we're talking about we want to write about a moment that was this big and everything that, and we basically just, we tell it. We don't show it. So your first piece of writing might be a lot of telling, but I believe he probably started in this book just telling about his Saturdays where he would go to mow his grandmother's yard. Maybe it was a story about how important his grandma was, or maybe it was his original story was about just making cookies with his grandma, tea cakes in his case. Or maybe it was about the important thing for him when he was to remember was how he mowed his grandmother's yard. But he brought so much more detail into the story. We got a sense of the community feel. We got a sense of where he lived, when he lived. We got a sense through the dialogue. We got a sense through prepositional phrases, through repetition and onomatopoeia, the use of sound devices, through similes and metaphors, strong verbs and proper nouns. And I bet you there's a lot more in there. But here are some examples of descriptive language. So your job is to listen to the story again. As I was reading, I realized that you probably can't see the text really, really well. So you're relying on my voice, and it wasn't always facing forward. So I am going to post a link to the book where you can hear it, or you can search for it. Just look up Saturdays and Tea Cakes, and you can find the author, read it. I posted that before for my students. I'll see if I can find it again so that you can hear the story. And I want you to post at least, I'd like you to fill this at least 10 examples. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here we go. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 examples, because this book is really, really rich. So of the descriptive language devices and tools that this author uses. So that's this particular thing. That's you making the anchor chart. So let's go back to the discussion. So that's this first one. You're creating this anchor chart, approximately 10 examples, not already mentioned in the Zoom. And you're going to create a chart. You can do this by hand if you prefer to listen and watch the video and do it by hand. I'm cool with that. You just have to take a picture and post your work in the discussion to get credit for the work that you're doing. Or you can type it on the chart just like I did in a Word doc or in a Google Doc or something, but you have to post the work. Don't make me have to dig and search for it. Or your colleagues for that matter, because they're also reading your work, or they have the capacity to read your work, because this is in your small group work. It's where it's being posted. So that's what all these descriptions are talking about, okay? So now, and it tells you how you can do the plus sign to upload your tables and all of that sort of thing. Once you've done that, I want you to go back to that original piece of writing, this one right up here, okay? And I want you to identify 5 areas in that first draft of writing where you can be a little bit more specific, and you can use some of these descriptive tools to revise your writing, okay? So you're going to post your original sentence and then the revised sentence in 2 different colors of ink to show the differences in the work. Here I ask you to post the original sentence in black and the revised sentence in another color. So let me give you an example of something, what that might look like. I think I have it. I had it. Let's see. I don't think it's that. No, we're going to do lesson plans another time because we're not quite ready for that, because I wanted you to have this. Oh, Lordy. You know what? I closed tabs and I can't find things once I close them. So I really apologize. But let's do an example together. So if we were to take a simple sentence, let's see, what's something that he did? This was where my tires gave up their humming on pavement. This was where my tires stopped, or no, this was where I stopped. I had reached Mama's house and got off my bike. Okay, there's my first original sentence. It's in black ink. Okay, so let's see what he wrote instead. He said, this was where my tires gave up their humming on pavement and began the crunching of gravel. So I just gave you another example. Notice this is where he was talking about stopping. So you have elaborated the sentence. This is where you got a specific noun, gave up their humming. You've got strong, you've got a sound device, they're humming where the tires are humming on the pavement because you're talking about that, and began their crunching on gravel. So that's the edited part that's been elaborated, and that's what you will do in your writing. Here's your original sentence that came from the first discussion, this one that you posted here, and then you're going to post here your table, and then you're going to make a second post where you're going to actually put the example. You've got the text, your original text, and then you're going to have the revised text, and you're going to have it in a different color ink. Okay, so you're going to do 5 examples like that. And that's the work that you're going to do this week for writing. What you will do, let's go back to the instructions and say, okay, so that's this number part in green. Do include at least one example of onomatopoeia. I often ask my students when I was in the classroom to focus on a specific thing that we've talked about all these other descriptive things over the course of a semester or the school year, but maybe this mini lesson was going to focus specifically on onomatopoeia because this book is so rich with that. So I pointed out a couple of examples. You'll find some more. So make sure that your writing also has that, because this is how we get students to practice what they see in authentic text. Now, what I want you to do is you have 2 discussions posted in the small group, in your small groups here. You know, you're working with them same groups, okay? And I want you to ask each other for feedback. I'm not putting up a rubric or any form. You guys know how to do this. And so I'm not going to give you extra tasks, but 3 things that you could definitely do when you're talking with your group members is tell them what you understand, tell them something you like about their writing, what do you appreciate, and then tell them something that you would like to get them to do differently. What would you want them to change? What are you missing from the piece? What would you like to know more about? Those are really the 3 areas that we constantly focus on. So if you don't see the onomatopoeia in their writing, you might offer a suggestion on where you might be able to see, or you might say, I don't see how you're rounding the corner to your grandma's house. Can you show me what that looks like? Because this is a lesson on descriptive writing. So look for those descriptive attributes. They're going to take your suggestions. Notice it says feel free. Please do that. That gives you a lot of freedom where it doesn't sound like it's required. But I get feedback from you guys, and students, they're disappointed when you guys don't talk to each other about your writing. So you know how to find each other. You've been working together all semester. So get in touch, find a way to talk to each other, because then you're going to take this, the final piece, after you do your revisions and kind of smooth it and make it presentable and make it something that you want to post, again, with a visual to support your story. Remember, it's a moment in time. If we had more time, I would do a whole lesson on just zooming in on a moment. But we kind of alluded to that. So what I want you to do is you will post that as post number 3 on your blog, and it's going to be called narrative writing, or you can call it, give it a cool title like Saturdays and Tea Cakes. Give it something that pertains to your piece of writing, but it's an example of a different style of writing. This is going to be a personal memoir, personal narrative is another way of saying that. And you need to have that by Friday. So you're working on getting all of your, the blog post is due Friday, but all this other work is due actually by Tuesday, so that you guys have time to be able to revise and get your work done. Okay, so that is the bulk of this week's work. There's one more thing that I think we have 2 more chapters left in our book. Do we? I think we still have chapters 9 and 10. I'll be putting up a couple discussions that I want you to get done by next week for you to be able to finish the book because it's a cool book. I hope you liked it. And I think it's worth the time to read this. So we will not talk about developing your lesson plans or anything yet. Some of you have reached out to me and said, I don't understand what this PBA thing is. The PBA is very complex, so I have only laid it out there. You're not doing a PBA by itself. I think we need to make sure that we're focusing on each week's lessons as I lay them out, because I am trying to break the process down to incorporate what they have asked me and required us to do with this PBA with the way that I have always structured this course that has to do with these mini lessons and such. So I've taken out complete projects to accommodate that and broken it down in order to make this more manageable for you. You've already done learning objectives. You did the context for learning. You did the learning objectives. You wrote you also looked at the assessment piece last week. So the next piece, of course, is writing a lesson plan. But I wanted to give you an example of what a writing mini lesson is. Notice we had a read aloud. Okay. Notice we had a together activity where we were pulling out it was a shared activity where we pulled out a skill, descriptive writing, elaboration to show and revise. So what are the students going to do? They're going to revise their writing and they're going to deliver that and publish it to a blog. So you kind of already got a sense of what that lesson's going to look like. Next week, for week 13, I'm going to actually post the lesson plan template and walk you through it. And we're going to use this as an example to be able to develop so you can see what that format's going to look like. And then you're going to take the learning objectives that you wrote and the assessment that you wrote, and you're going to use that to develop your lesson plan. And that's the assignment. So if you're confused, I hope you're listening to this video because I just described how you're going to finish up the PBA piece. You're going to put all those pieces together, and I'll tell you then how they all go together so that you can submit those. You're not going to actually be putting them into TK20 as we were originally told, not this semester, but you are going to be turning it in for credit in this course. So that's the gist. Oh, and there is also a video that I want you to see. And here, it's right here, or it's not a video, excuse me. You're going to watch the video I've just provided for you, but you are going to read about making, writing planning and teaching mini lessons. So here's a nice little article that I think you will find interesting. And so that's the mainstay of this week's work. And then your blog post will be due at the end of next week, and read these chapters. And that'll take you right into Thanksgiving. And then we'll come back and wrap up the semester with a lesson plan and I think we have a few more little topics to talk about. And the semester will be over soon. And then after Thanksgiving, I will open up any discussions, anything, whatever assignments that people did not finish because they didn't meet the deadlines. I will open them up for people to be able to work on for 50% credit after that, after Thanksgiving. So I hope you have a great week, and I will be here if you have questions or wish to reach out for anything. So let me go ahead and stop the sharing, and I'm going to stop the recording. Here we go.